Hello and welcome along to another episode of this FM19 story, part of the furniture with me, Daniel. It's season 11, episode 6, and today we play another big Premier League game against Everton. Before we meet our first youth intake since joining the Premier League, hopefully we'll be in for something special. We'd love to start bringing through players at the club after the previous ones have had to be sold on just to keep us afloat in the lower tiers. So Richard Quirk down at Southampton, although he's probably regretting that now we're above them in the league. You can see the other remarkable thing is we've reached 40 points with 9 games to go, an absolutely brilliant achievement, and if you consider we lost our last game, we made it with 10 games to go. But after a brilliant run of form, we have started to dip a little bit, partly because of the huge gaps we're having between games now, due to not being in any of the cup competitions, but also just because we're starting to struggle. We've reached that achievement that we said we wanted for so long this season, and it seems the players have just eased off a little. One of the things I will say though, in the team stats here, we've got the 6th best defensive record in the league. It just keeps getting better, and I'm really delighted with that, particularly after the previous 2 or 3 years. It's Nuno Espirito Santo, the Wolves manager in real life, who's in charge of the Everton side we play today. So let's go and get into the game, as we see how stretched our squad is at the moment. It's probably the other reason for our poor form. We are slight underdogs for this one. We've got Coelho ineligible because he's on loan from Everton, Allingham's out injured, Irwin's doubtful as well, our first choice left back, so that's 3 of the starting 11 gone, and due to our January sales, which we'll obviously go and look at in a minute, and no further additions, we're down to a bare 18. No other senior pros are fit, so that's all we've got to choose from at the moment. Let's go and quickly look at the transfer sales just so you can see who else has gone out. There's not a great deal that's happened, but just 1 or 2 more that have left the squad. So in addition to Desart, who we mentioned in the last episode, and Michael Hill, who had gone out on loan, we've also loaned out John Sampson, who turned out to be a flop signing for $250,000 last January, and Johnny Kelly was the next one along. He's gone for 10 grand a month to Brentford, who more importantly are paying the full amount of his £11,000 a week wage. He's a decent player, but he needs first team football, and it doesn't even look like he's getting it there, so he's certainly not going to make it. And then lastly, Reece Williams, a bit of a stalwart for us. Obviously he was with us in non-league, he left us on that occasion to go to Hearts, came back a few years later and got us up to the Premier League, but he's been throwing a tantrum all season. He's not happy about not being first choice, despite not being a good enough centre half. You can see how much our defensive areas have improved since changing the 2 centre backs and the full backs as well, to be honest. So he's gone for £3 million off to Stoke City, and it's a really good bit of business for our club. He's a solid championship player. You can see he's starting every game at Stoke, and we've got some future fees to come in if he does well there, but we certainly need to thank him for his 236 appearances for us. He's been a really good player, but it's just a step too far, and unfortunately we have to realise that with a few of the players. The likes of Alex Bass will probably be the next ones along. We really don't want to see them go after their contribution, but it's better that they leave on good terms while they're still remembered by the fans, rather than after 3 or 4 years sitting in the reserves. So let's get back to our lineup. We'll meet the 11 for today. It's Stevie Maxwell in goal, Cisse and Adam Lewis are the fullbacks, with Bedger and the Clerk at centre half, Foster's in the holding role with McDonald in the middle, Lindstrom over on the right, and then Bergamini and Kozzel behind Rutherford up front, though we're probably going to drop Bergamini back. I don't know that we can go that attacking, and we haven't got a natural sub now Kelly's gone, so it looks like whenever Allingham's out, we'll have to go back to a defensive midfield shape. So let's get into the game. Even just a point to stop the rot would really be helpful on this occasion. Okay, we're into the game. It's a 4-2-3-1 for Everton, a really solid shape. One thing I remember I haven't done, which is very unusual, is shown you the schedule for the recent games. I just want to show you the bit of poor form we're coming into this one with. We've not played too many games in truth. We won back-to-back games after that Arsenal draw in the last episode. The last-minute equaliser really got us on form. It was a crazy 2 games as well. A 2-0 win away against Leicester, a brilliant result there. Late goals from Rutherford and Nico Williams really did the job, although Craig Lonergan-Irwin picked up a knock in that one. We then won 5-4 at home to Manchester City, one of the craziest games of football I've ever seen. Lindstrom scored 2 goals, Kozzel and Rutherford got one as well. Ederson scored an own goal, Leclerc missed a penalty. It was all happening in this game, an unbelievable match of football, and we were really delighted to come out on top. 2 draws followed that, firstly at home to West Brom, a bore 0-0, but it was enough to get a point. We can't complain about that one. And then a 1-1 draw at home to Burnley, Burnley. The first signs of weakness from us there. A last minute equaliser from the away side, which cost us the 3 points. Leclerc scored a goal in that one, a bullet header it was, but unfortunately they didn't hold firm at the back and it cost us the game late on. And a similar pattern followed at Fulham. Jimmy Lindstrom scored an own goal just 2 minutes from the end as we sacrificed a lead and then a point late on in the game too. So we're hoping for a bit better against Everton today, but let's get back into it and see what we can do. We're going to talk to the lads and tell them to prove a point. We really want them to put on a worthy display, and most of them seem completely motivated by that, so it seems like a good outcome for us. We're just going to drop Bergamini into the box-to-box role. It's something he's more natural in anyway. Hopefully that means he'll perform to the best of his ability and free Lindstrom up a little bit, who can now go to his preferred attacking duty. It's been a little bit tricky for us in the last few games. A few of you had mentioned about pushing Lindstrom further forward and playing with a more traditional shape like that. But unfortunately, with Lindstrom not trained in that position yet, we've got to wait half a year for him to at least become competent before we can think about making that change. Allingham's also generally playing better than Bergamini too, so I know we'll probably change players in the summer, but it does seem like a bit of a difficult one to do at the moment to suit the players we've got here at the club. We're also going to drop Rowan McDonald to a central midfielder on defend. It's the role he prefers anyway, and we need to protect Adam Lewis, who's certainly not a Premier League left back. However, he is making his 225th league appearance for the club, so we hope he marks that with a good performance. We look like we're well prepared despite losing Allingham. We all know how we can change our shape, and we're just resting Nico Williams. There's nothing more to it than that. Let's get into the first half. Rutherford with the kick-off. Apologies for the spacebar smash again if you heard that, as Bedger's got the ball at centre-half. Here's McDonald back to Bedger again, but the highlight ends with just a few seconds gone, and although the match stats show we've had the early shots, we've not seen any of them in highlights. 10 minutes gone and it remains goalless. We've got a throw at left back here with Lewis. He throws it into Kozzel. Goes back to Foster, the holding midfielder. If we can get out of our half, I'd feel much more comfortable, as we just risk losing possession there. And Foster's done just that, and they're in on the left with Diaby. Cisse does really well to put him off though, and he's headed it wide for a Torquay goal kick. 5 minutes to half time. It's Bedger with a long free kick. Lindstrom flicks it on, but it's headed away. Vlasic beats Foster to it. Foster's really looked out of place in the Premier League this year. We did sign a new Polish lad in January for just over £1 million, and hopefully he'll be able to move into the team next year and really start to help us progress. Kozzel on the edge of the box finds Bergamini. He puts it over, and it remains 0-0. I'm just going to check the lad that I've just called Polish. I'm pretty sure he might be from the Czech Republic, but we're coming forward again with Cisse. He's on the edge of the box, forces a good save from the keeper. That might be Talas Cisse's first shot of the year. Let's look at the player. He is from the Czech Republic, so I can only apologise for that. We're a minute to the break and it remains 0-0, but we have had the slightly better of the first half. We've got a throw in at left back. Hopefully we won't throw this half away now. Kozzel gets it back to McDonald. He goes to Kozzel again on the left. He's got a man inside in Rutherford, but he's not got much support, although it is coming now on the right as Lindstrom gets on the end of Tong's clearance. Foster finds Lindstrom again. He's very narrow on this occasion, but we've gone forward to Bergamini in the end. Lindstrom to Foster. We're keeping possession well, but we're not really creating clear-cut chances, although Lindstrom tries to shoot from 25 yards and it's easily blocked by the defender. There's the half-time whistle. It is 0-0. We've had the only shots on target of the game. Let's go and talk to the lads. We want to tell them to prove a point again. We're going to listen to Jelling on this occasion, and just as many of them are motivated this time. Let's get into the second half and see if we can put in an improved performance, or at least restrict Everton yet again. It's Tong to Cesar on the left. I've got to say that Stephen Tong at left back for Everton is an absolutely brilliant player. We'll go and take a look at him if we get a chance actually. He's a really good left back. He's playing for England, 40 appearances at the age of 24, 3 goals as well. He's a good penalty taker. He's an elite fullback and he's fairly professional. He sort of reminds you of Ashley Cole from about 20 years ago, particularly in that balance of attributes. But the corner's coming in from Everton, and what a time that was to come back. The corner from Vlasic finds Diaby at the front post, and with their first shot on target of the match, Everton lead against Torquay. It's a really disappointing goal to concede, but it seems to have been a pattern of our last few games. We've just taken our foot off the gas since we've secured survival, and we tend to let in the odd sloppy goal or silly switches off from set pieces. The concentration's just not there, as the lads are already on their holidays. Here's Kozzel on the edge of the box, goes for the shot, but it's straight at Davids, and we're going to demand more from the lads. They're focused after the feedback, but will that result in an improved performance? We just don't know at the moment. McDonald misses his header from the Everton set piece again. Foster heads away the second ball, but it's only fallen for Diaby, the goal scorer. He gets it to Mendes and now Paulo Cesar. Up forward to the edge of the box, it's the striker to Vlasic. It's 2-0 game over, and we're going to go and make some changes, as now we've managed to lose the game. We've absolutely dominated it in terms of chances. We've had more possession, but we've switched off from a couple of set pieces, and it seems to have cost us the game. You can see Bergamini's had a poor one in there. He's not the best replacement at the moment, so if we are going to play a more natural shape next year, we'll definitely need to replace him. We're going to bring on Vladimir. He hasn't made his debut yet. We really want to see what he's made of. He's not very good in central midfield, so we're going to put him in the holding role. It's what he prefers anyway. He's going to be a defensive midfielder on support, try and step into midfield. We'll leave Foster as a box-to-box just to see if he can contribute and give him a chance to get forward towards the end of the game as we look to chase it late on. But it's 2-0 to Everton, a quarter of the game to go, despite them having no clear-cut chances and only creating a few shots from set pieces. Just under 15 to go then, let's make some subs. I was planning to replace the two central midfielders with attacking midfielders, but we just haven't got the legs on the pitch now, and we're starting to get overrun a bit in possession, so we're just going to try and shore things up. Nico Williams is going to come on for Lindstrom. He's the most tired player on the pitch, and Leclerc's not had a particularly good game either, so young Ross Taylor's going to get a few minutes at centre-half. Let's get back into it, and fingers crossed we can keep it at 2. It's Everton with the ball. They've got a free kick in their own box. The keeper just takes it short, and it looks like they're going to come forward again. We've got a warning to close a couple of people down, so we've put those on, and now Vlasic is coming forward in the middle. You can see why we didn't go to attacking midfielders. Even with the two central men, we're getting overrun down the middle. Fraser Hornby's come up front, and he scored a goal. It's 3-0 to Everton, and this one's starting to get embarrassing. Just a minute plus stoppage time to go. All of the games we've lost this season have always been by 1 or 2 goals, so it's probably our heaviest defeat of the year, which is a little bit of a disappointment. But Everton are a good side, and let's not forget, at the start of the season, we were just hoping to fight for survival. The fact we're on 40 points with 10 games to go, we can lose every game from here, and if we stay up, I wouldn't care. The lads have done a remarkable job this season. We've got the ball in the middle for Vlasic. I'm keen not to finish the season too poorly though. We've seen so many teams in the past with second season syndrome. The likes of Hull before are a good example, where they've really slid towards the end of the first year, and in the second season they've just not been able to get going and continued their poor form. The ball's into the box here. The final whistle goes before the set piece is taken. Maxwell finished the game with a brilliant save, but you can see in the last 10 or 15 minutes, Everton really levelled up the stats. The Torquay fans will be disappointed today, but overall they'll be delighted with where we are. They're not going to complain too much. We're going to assertively tell the lads we're far from pleased, as that second half was one of the poorest performances we've had in a while, and hopefully they'll react in the next game, although that's not for 3.5 weeks. So we stay in 10th place, as that was one of our games in hand, but we're not moving any closer to the relegation zone. We've got a 12-point gap, which is absolutely remarkable at this stage, and there's no risk of us going down at all. Let's quickly look at what the media have said about the game. Everton have moved into the race for Europe. We're not surprised about that. They've got an elite striker in Diaby as well. They've got some really good players, Everton. I have no idea what they're doing down in 7th or 8th. They seem to be a really good side. One other bit of news off camera is we did have another job offer from Chelsea. They offered us an interview again. Don't forget, when we won League One 3 or 4 years back, they offered us $92,000 a week to take over, which is really strange in comparison to our other series. In that one, we're managing a good, reputable side in Newcastle and getting some really good achievements on the board, but because we're not performing so far above our reputation, we're not getting any job offers from elite clubs. But in this one, just for winning League One with Torquay, because their reputation was a bit lower, we started getting massive offers from big clubs. So it seems a bit strange how reputation's being viewed in FM19, particularly by the biggest clubs. It seems to be a big stumbling block if you go to a club with sort of 4-star reputation, that you can't then take that next step, as your achievements aren't that far above what your club's reputation is. But in this one we were thoroughly outplayed. The only positive is the new holding midfielder making his debut. But let's give forward in the future a few days to try and get a positive end to this episode, as we have our first youth intake in the Premier League. We'll see you in a second for that one. Right, we're back on the 9th of March and we've been thrown straight into our youth intake message. We've got a reason to be excited as Dan Batten has the potential to be one of our most gifted players coming through the ranks in the last few years at Torquay. So it depends if that message is just the generic one we normally get, where it's saying he's got good potential, or are they comparing him to the players of the last few years? Because if he's up there with a Richard Quirk or a Fibber Seamer's potential, we're going to be absolutely delighted. We've got loads of good players in there. Dan Batten's a left winger and striker, so a player that would certainly suit our formation, but let's not wait any longer. Let's go and have a look at the youth candidates team. He's already 1.5 star ability, is he? He's not, that's somebody else. So Darren Palmer is the best player, a centre forward with 1.5 star ability, 4.5 star potential. He's 16 years of age and he can't finish. It's the one thing I hate in a striker. He cannot finish to save his life. He's a pressing forward and also an advanced forward apparently, but how can you be in one-on-one and not be able to finish? He can also play right wing and attacking midfield though, so if we could teach him to cross, right wing might be his position. He's got a resolute personality though, so I'm sure he could improve, and fingers crossed he'll be able to do that in the future. So I'm not too disappointed with that one, but Dan Batten is the one we're really looking at as he's been highlighted by our head of youth development. He's got 1 star ability, 4 star potential, which is still good enough for the Premier League, so let's go and have a little look at him and see how good he really is. He's a natural left winger, determined personality, 20 determination, so they weren't kidding about that. He's very good physically, decent technique and first touch, but he's not particularly strong, and I don't think he's ever going to make it in the Premier League. He's only 15 though, so with that determination in training, he may well improve as the years go on. So after a relatively exciting message, I'm actually a little bit disappointed by that. The only other 2 players we'll probably keep on are the next 2 here. We'll just go and have a quick look at them without really describing them. Tyler Henshaw, the central midfielder, looks a decent player but will probably never make it at the top, and Stephen Atkinson, a right back, not got the highest potential ability but seems to have a decent current one already. I think that's just because of his mentality, as his tackling attributes absolutely awful. So a little bit underwhelming that, but you can't get a perfect youth intake every year, so we'll just have to wait for a season or 2 and hopefully we'll get another good one. We've still got one player progressing really well, Ray Probert in the under-19s. Look how well he's coming along. He'll certainly be involved towards the end of this year and in the first team squad next season. He's going to be an absolute superstar. Rami Hassan's coming along okay as well, so it looks like the 2 players from last year are really developing nicely and will hopefully make up for the fact that we haven't had the best youth intake this year by providing some first team quality in the future. If we go to the schedule quickly to see when we'll next be back, we've got a 3.5 week gap before we play Southampton in the next one, so I think we'll just go through to the end of the year as there's nothing really to play for, and we'll have our game against Chelsea on the final day of the season as we get to test ourselves against the big boys again, and a club that have offered us the job twice in the first 11 years, don't forget. We'll also have our end of season review and talk about the overhaul we'll be doing this summer, as we have to let a few more of our stalwarts go if we want to progress towards the top of the Premier League. Hopefully staying up means we'll get a good transfer budget for next season, but we'll have to wait on our board for that one and see if they manage to deliver. Our finances are in a great position. We're making a profit every month and we've got 50 million in the bank, so I see no reason why we won't get a good amount to spend, though we'll just have to wait and see. So I hope you'll come and join me for the final game of the season as we look to celebrate survival. Barring a miracle, we won't get dragged into the relegation battle now as we've reached that magic 40-point mark. But if you did enjoy this episode, please put a thumbs up on the video. Let me know what you thought of our performance against Everton and why it was suddenly our worst one of the season, as well as our youth intake. What did you think of that? I was a little bit disappointed, but you might see something special in one of the new players. Subscribe to the channel for daily FM19 content from my 2 long-term stories, this one with Torquay United, and then our Journeyman series, The Head Coach, where we work under a director of football with no say in transfers or contracts. There's also weekly content from my Snooker 19 career every Friday at 4:30, and then from next week we've got content from Cricket 19, the official game of the Ashes. There'll be loads of content from that over the next few weeks, so do go and check that out if you're a fan of other sports games. But a massive thanks for watching and your continued support as always. I really do appreciate it, and we'll see you next time for a massive final game of the season against Chelsea, as well as our end of year review.